Hello, as your regular video tutor, I heartily request you to give the time and attention for this content as it develops. You can use this content for your relearning of the materials in your college or university courses. This could be useful for your projects, tests, and exams. For teachers and scholars, this content can be used for multitasks. When you as students are with the channel, please take notes, stopping and replaying the video as necessary. We expect you to do the best performance. That's what we expect from this video. Today, I'm talking about Allegory, Fable and Parable under Know Your Literary Terms Lesson 2. In my lesson 1, I talked about alliteration, assonance, consonance, and caesura. Okay. The first term for today's discussion is allegory. We often come across a question, what is allegory? What is the best example of allegory? And what type of characters are used in allegory? What's the motive of writing allegory? So, I'll try to quench your thirst for this. These all questions. And allegory is anything simple objects, characters, figures, or colors used to represent an abstract idea or message. That is like the moral. That's the intention is to give or impart moral. It's a subgenre of literature in which the characters often stand for abstract concepts. The allegory is a content in bare language, covered language. That is the language which always has some hidden meaning below the surface. What it appears on surface and what it means to say in depth. There is great difference between the connotation and denotation. The surface meaning, the connotation, and deep meaning, denotation. So superficially what is there, and in depth what's there. So there is the difference, and the message is there always in the depth. Message is always hidden. And allegories are exciting because they use characters and events to convey a meaning. But they don't just come out and say what they try to do, what they try to expect, but they have some intention there. An allegory generally teaches a lesson by means of an interesting story. It may be used to illustrate a moral or spiritual truth, or political or historical situation. Aesop's fables are literal examples of allegory. Plato's allegory of the cave is probably the first example of allegory. Allegories can be understood to be a type of extended metaphor. As the fate of allegory is tied to the development of myth and mythology, we have to learn a lot. So that's the link with myth and mythology, the development of mythology. And we know myths never die, they just change, they just transform. Thus, the following varied works might be called allegories: the biblical parable of the sower, everyman, the medieval morality plays, along with the following noted examples. So these examples include The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan as a religious allegory, Fury Queen and Waiting for Godot by Sir Edmund Spenser and Samuel Beckett. They are categorized under moral allegory. The Lord of the Flies by Sir William Golding is categorized as social allegory. The Marks of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe is death allegory. The Animal Farm by George Orwell and Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift are the examples of political allegory. I think different examples. There are so many examples we can get across the literature, and these are the noted examples. Okay, the next discussion for today is what is fable. And again, while talking about uh, allegory, I gave you the example of Aesop's fable. Aesop's fable are literal examples of allegory here, and fable of Aesop. So here fable comes here. A fable is a short story that has a moral or that teaches a lesson, and it's a short story that teaches a lesson. The characters in fables are not human beings. There are different characters. Even nature comes as a character. These birds are characters, animals are characters, and they represent human behaviors. They represent human frailties and follies. And these characters tell, through these characters, the fable writer tells funny stories, and they are easy to remember, easy to recall. And these fables are stories that have been told throughout past generation, trickling down to the present to deliver important lessons about the nature, love, friendship, and being a good person. Fables are closely associated with fairy tales. Fables are deeply philosophical but simple enough for even the younger ones to grasp, as I already mentioned. The stories are memorable enough to where they will be able to recall at a moment's notice. Fables of Aesop is quite possibly the most famous book of fables. Other famous examples of fable include Narayan Sharma's Hitopadesh in Sanskrit. In English, it is translated as good and beneficial advices, and his stories of Panchatantra, stories from Panchatantra. Similarly, Somdev Bhatta's Baital Pachishi is another example of the collection of fable books. Okay, after discussing about fable, I'm coming to the question. What is parable? I'm trying to tell you the definition, meaning, and letter. There is a difference between fable and parable. How fable and parable are same and how they are different. This is the discussion here. Parable is a short, simple story which gives a moral or religious lesson at the end. Like a fable, the parable is another type of allegorical story in which the storyteller can convey complicated moral truths through stories. Both stories deliver a clear message about human behavior in hopes of people to act morally. The most famous parables are those in New Testament, spoken by Jesus. However, parables are different from fables in the following different ways. So we need to know the demarcation line where fables and parables are different. They are same, as we have seen, and how they are different. Okay, see in this slide the differences between fables and parables. Fables, they impart a moral lesson, whereas parables, they give a religious guidance. Number 2, fables. In fables, there is a personification and use of animal characters. Even nature can be the character in fable. But in parables, there is the use of analogies from human characters. Human beings become the subject of parables, and human activities become the subject of parables. And fables, they deal with human follies and frailties, whereas parables deal with codes of conduct, morality, and ethics. Number 4, wit or wisdom is more important in fables, whereas good moral behavior is important in parables. Fables deal with everyday activities and common sense in human life, whereas parables deal with standard ideas and modes in human life. Okay, with these 5 differences, we have discussed the difference between fables and parables. I think it's clear through this table. And now, the most well-known parables are spoken by Jesus, as I already told you, in the Bible. The Upanishad, the Holy Quran, or the Bible are the sources of the parables. Narad and Sanat Kumara's story in the Upanishad, the cow in the Holy Quran, the Good Samaritan in the Holy Bible are some examples of parables. Similarly, New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen is another fun example of parable. Parables are some fables and fairy tales that are parables. Obstacle in our path is a parable that teaches that removing an obstacle can be a way to important Bible. The Upanishad, the Holy Quran, or the Bible are the sources of the parables. Narad and Sanat Kumara's story in Upanishad, the cow in the Holy Quran, the Good Samaritan in the Holy Bible, the Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen are some examples of parables. There are some fables and fairy tales that are parables too. The obstacle in our path is a parable that teaches that removing an obstacle can be a way to improvement. See, the story of the butterfly shows that sometimes we need struggles to grow. Okay, with this discussion, I would like to end my session today, and I hope you make good use of this video, and please don't forget to subscribe this channel and post comment if you want to learn something. Thank you very much.